Hey guys, so for my next bet, I'm betting big on Errol Spence Jr. Moneyline against Terence Crawford. I'm also betting a little bit on a draw. So I feel like either the way I see it, there's a 90% chance Errol Spence Jr. wins, there's a 9% chance it's a draw, and a 1% chance Terence Crawford wins. So far I've bet $3,000 on Errol Spence Jr. and the draw as well. So essentially, I mean, by the time this fight does happen, I expect to have a lot bet on Errol Spence Jr. So I'll put it this way. Let's say maybe by the end total, I'll have around, whatever, say 5 to 10K on Errol on the fight. And, if Errol Spence wins, I win 5K. If it's a draw, I win maybe like 2K. And those are the only possibilities I see happening. The only way I could see Terence Crawford winning is if some really fluke thing happens, so something like, someone slips on a water bottle, a fan runs in the ring, something crazy, someone, causes some sort of knee injury, if fight tries to keep happening, just something really out of the ordinary. I can't see Terence Crawford beating Spence. That's the important message of this video. That's all you really need to listen to. I'm like to get a lot of things off my chest now. I'm going to use this video to do this. I've been planning this bet for a very long time. All right, so there's the first few things I'd like to say. I've been betting on Spence and if you go through my YouTube channel and you go all the way to my very, very first video, you'll see that I bet on Errol Spence Jr. against Mikey Garcia. And I should have bet more, but I didn't, but I bet on Errol Spence Jr. If you go to my second video, I bet on Terence Crawford against Amir Khan. Again, probably should have bet more, but I didn't, but I bet on Terence Crawford. I've been betting on both these guys for the past probably about 5 years. Obviously, I've won every time I bet on them. And I've always told myself, if ever they both fought each other, I would definitely bet Errol Spence. I've been waiting a long time for this fight to happen. My plan was to fly to Vegas in November for this fight, and unfortunately it didn't happen then. So what I'm going to probably do now is drive down to Atlantic City in July 29th is when the fight is. And I'll be making my, a big part of my bet in Atlantic City. I'm also betting online as well. So I'm betting on PokerStars. I'm betting on Bet365. I'm betting, I'll have to look into the sports books on other online sites, and then I'll be betting pretty big in Atlantic City. So there's a lot of things I'd like to say about this fight. One second. All right. Sorry about that. So the first thing is about this whole YouTube channel is the whole point is I post a video, I make a bet, and that's it. And then I go on to the next video. And I don't really want to address past bets or anything like that or go over what I think happened or go over what I think is going to happen. It's just, here's the bet, here's my plan, boom, and then on to the next one. And, so far, done pretty well, except my very last bet was a loss, which was, I finally had a big bet where I went to Vegas and I bet 5K on the Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis fight to go over 7.5 rounds, and it went under, so I lost. So that was pretty unfortunate. So at this point, for my record, I've gone, let's see, at this point my record is 17-5, but I'm now down money, right? Because of that one loss. The loss that I did want to address, though, was the Canelo loss. And for that fight, it was interesting what happened because I'd always been betting on Canelo. And, I guess kind of what it comes down to is I made, before, the way I kind of got started in handicapping was Floyd Mayweather, right? So I made so much money betting on Floyd. And the thing with Floyd is he never got cocky. He would, no matter who he was fighting, he trained like he was fighting for someone. He trained as if he was fighting as if he was a broke fighter, right? And then he also trained he was also really smart too, and was able to kind of handicap who he should be fighting against because he never bit off more than he can chew. So you have to think about it. Here's a guy who's like welterweight, and he never went all the way up to middleweight. He never went, he understood the limits. He just understood everything. He understood the sport. And you look at Canelo and you kind of think, well, did he not understand what he was getting himself into? Why was he fighting Dimitri Bivol, who's a light heavyweight. If he's not, like, why did he get cocky? Did he think he could do more than he could? So there's just so many things with Canelo, but it all kind of starts from like when I got into poker and I kind of like realized things as I was getting into poker, and at first I didn't have any money. I was broke, right? And I didn't really know what to do in terms of playing. When I first started playing, I showed up and had much money, but my whole point was like, all right, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna act like I'm confident, okay? So I wasn't necessarily confident, I was just acting like I was confident. So when I would lose, I would pretend like, I was too cool, it didn't bother me. When I won, I pretended like, oh yeah, I expect to win every time. Like I just, gave off this air of like very confident, even though I wasn't, but I just acted confident. And then eventually things went my way, right? So I went from being broke, and I was acting confident, and then eventually I got confident because I started winning. And I was very confident, and then when you're very confident, that's when you're making a lot of money. And it's a great situation to be in. You're confident, now you're no longer acting confident, you're just straight up confident. You're making a lot of money. But then before you know it, things start going so well that you get cocky. But in poker, you could be cocky and still make a lot of money because you're getting good luck. Or even in anything. I mean, in boxing, I'm sure you could be cocky and still beat everyone because now they're all scared of you, right? So then you go through your phase where you're cocky for a while. But then the next thing you know, the bad luck comes, and because you're so cocky, you don't know how to handle it. And before you know it, you're back to broke again. And then it kind of just goes in a circle of being broke, confident, let me say again. Broke, acting confident, cocky, back to broke again. And it's funny too, because sometimes you'll be confident and you're winning for so long and you keep thinking to yourself, oh man, don't get cocky. And it's kind of hard not to. I mean, there was one time, I remember, like, for example, right here, this bracelet here, I bought it because I'd won 30 poker sessions in a row, 30. And like, that's kind of a dumb thing to even think about because like, you shouldn't really be counting sessions. Poker's one long session. Who cares if you have a winning session or a losing session? If you win $100 or you lose $10, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. But for whatever reason, I was playing at least 5 hours every day, at a certain stake, and I was playing, I guess, whatever, let's say $1,000 minimum each time, right? And I was playing, Hold'em in Omaha, and so 30 sessions in a row I won, and it was just really kind of stuck out to me. And after that, it's hard not to get cocky, right? And then, you're trying to avoid, whatever, you go broke, so it just goes in that circle. And the thing with Floyd is he never got cocky. Like, you're just never going to see that again. And then you look at it across other sports. I'm like, look at Michael Jordan, right? So Michael Jordan was so good, of course. But at the end of the day, he still came back and played with the Wizards. Like, everyone forgets about that. Not only did he play with the Wizards, but they didn't make the playoffs. So he was in the East, which was like a shitty conference, 2 seasons on the Wizards, and he wasn't able to get them into the playoffs. I don't know, that's kind of surprising to me, right? Like, it means, like, he really couldn't, like, I don't know, it just, like, makes me feel like even he got cocky, Whereas Floyd never did, and then, like, I don't know, there's some people, it seems like, another one I kind of maybe I thought about was Tiger Woods. And like with Tiger, it's like, well, okay, his body broke down or whatever. And then some people say, well, look at what happened to him outside of golf, right? He had all those extramarital affairs and blah, blah, blah. And you could say, okay, well, that was him getting cocky. But so there's some people where it feels like they'll get cocky, but not in their craft, maybe outside of their craft, right? So if you think about Floyd, well, he did get arrested. He ended up in prison. I mean, he never lost a boxing fight. He did get arrested, he ended up in prison. And then, say you look at someone like Tyson Fury, like, all right, he's never lost a boxing fight, but he did, go in that deep depression where he was, like, partying like crazy and had to take 3 years off from the sport. And then you come across someone like Errol Spence, like, all right, he hasn't lost a fight, but he did get in a car crash, right? Like, I mean, he did drive his Ferrari, 200 miles an hour, no seatbelt, and crash. And, he came out of it fine somehow. I mean, obviously that's very lucky, but I don't know, there's like a whole lot of things in this fight that, I mean, look, I don't want to be wasting your guys' time as well, I want to get off my chest here, but yeah, there's just so many things in this fight that I feel like, it just favors Errol Spence over Terrence Crawford. All right, I guess I want to go a few more things is like, okay, so say for the pound for pound list, right? So you'll see that, okay, well, Crawford and Spence in the same weight division, but a lot of people have Crawford number 1, pound for pound, Spence number 4, whatever, etc. And I think one of the things you need to understand about this fight is Spence is like the naturally bigger guy. So Crawford started at like, I think 130, and he's moved all the way up to 147, and he unified the junior welterweight division, right? So he unified the 140-pound division, right? Whereas Spence started at 147. So when Spence, this is going to be, I'm very sure this is going to be Spence's last fight at 147. So even if he wins the fight, and say Crawford wants a rematch, I'd be like, screw that, I'll vacate the belts, come fight me at 154 or something, you know? Like, I can't imagine he's going to stay at this weight class. So I think this is for sure his last fight at welterweight, and then he's going to move up. And then eventually I think he'll be fighting at middleweight. And, there was a time maybe 5 years ago, where people said, one day the next super fight is going to be Errol Spence Jr. versus Canelo. And you had a lot of people saying that. And Floyd was kind of the one who started that prediction, so obviously that's probably what got the ball rolling. But I think Floyd was right. And people kind of just forgot about that as things go on. Canelo does his thing, Errol Spence doing his thing. They're in different divisions, different weight classes, and now they get this Crawford thing. The fight's taking long to happen. But I still do think that is the ultimate super fight, and I think Spence is just going to be much bigger than Crawford. I think when the fight starts, like round 1, right away, everyone's going to notice, wow, Spence is a lot bigger than Crawford. It's going to be very noticeable. I was thinking too, just even an example, I watched another time I bet on Crawford, was when he fought Jeff Horn, right? And I remember in that fight, I was very confident Crawford was going to win, but right when the fight started, I was like, man, look at Crawford, he's smaller than Jeff Horn. Like, Jeff Horn's not that big of a guy, but look at Crawford, he's pretty small for a welterweight, And you're going to watch a small welterweight fight a big welterweight, and also Spence isn't even a welterweight. When Spence was in the Olympics, he fought at 154. So this kind of just gives you an idea of how big Spence is going to be 175, Crawford's going to be 155. And then also Crawford's always, they say he has a mean streak to him, and he's a bully, and this and that. All right, let's see him bully Errol Spence. That I'd like to see. It's just something else. I mean, whatever. If a little side note here, if you want a little joke real quick, I think it's kind of funny to see is Errol Spence is from Texas, and Terrence Crawford is from Omaha, Nebraska. So you got, Texas Hold'em versus Potlam in Omaha, right? There you go. I'm betting on Texas Hold'em. All right, so another few things I'd like to say is Floyd Mayweather. I gotta talk more about Floyd. So I was saying how he had such an IQ, he's really the best ever, blah, blah, blah. Floyd he was just so smart. And it's funny just to think, they say he's good investments, good businessman, this and that. And here was a funny thing I remember realizing was, all of Floyd's fights were in Vegas, right? And then when Floyd announced he was doing exhibition fight, whatever, going all over the world, and then he announced he was doing that fight against Logan Paul. And immediately I thought to myself, okay, it's probably in Vegas. And then I saw it was in Miami, and I thought that was just weird, in Florida. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I thought about it too, and you don't really see many fights in Florida, now that I think about it. It seems like a lot of fights are in Vegas, I mean, maybe some are in Texas, whatever, right? And then this rumor came out, or whatever, accusation, Logan Paul's saying, well, Floyd never paid me the money. And then I looked into it, and there was supposedly some law in Florida with the way the promotions are set up. Who's ever promoting the fight gets to decide how the money gets split up, and that fight was under a Floyd Mayweather promotion, and Floyd just never paid Logan Paul. And then Floyd was saying to Logan Paul, well, yeah, go get your lawyers then if I never paid me, sue me, The point is, I just think it's hilarious how he literally, was fighting this, young YouTube kid. I mean, look, first of all, the fight was very beneficial for Logan Paul, got him a ton of exposure, right? But I think it's just hilarious how Floyd, took all the money and didn't even pay Logan Paul, And obviously he just saw there was a law, a loophole, and he just, obviously got his lawyers ready to go so he could, just take all the money and keep all the money. And yeah, I just think it's hilarious. But my point is too, you often hear people say, okay, what's the, look at Floyd's whole career and he's so great, and you say, all right, what's the hardest he's ever been hit? And you'll say, okay, it was that fight against Shane Mosley. Remember in the second round, when Shane Mosley hit him once really hard, and then they hit him again really hard, right? It was the most exciting thing, whatever. People got pretty excited. And Floyd, handled it like a champ and dominated the rest of the fight. But yeah, so I don't know if that's true. I don't know if the hardest Floyd ever been hit was from Shane Mosley. There's a rumor that the hardest Floyd has ever been hit was from Errol Spence Jr. In sparring, right? There's a rumor that Errol Spence Jr. knocked down Floyd in sparring. And, they say, well, what happens in sparring stays, or what happens in the gym stays in the gym, so they don't like to talk about it. But, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, Errol Spence is real special, and you're going to see that on July 29th. And you're going to see, too, with Crawford, kind of why he's been overrated at welterweight. I mean, also, even Crawford, the matchups, he hasn't had tough fights. He hasn't had to fight. He's fought a lot of guys who had already lost to Errol Spence, right? He's fought, he was in top rank, so he wasn't fighting the top guys who were in PBC, even though now he's kind of come over to PBC. So he really is, that's another thing. So he really is good, but another thing I wanted to say was, it's kind of like the analogy of, it's kind of like a basketball analogy, okay? Because they talk about skills. So who would you say is more skilled? Kyrie Irving or Giannis, Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Okay, well, obviously you would say Kyrie because he does all that cool dribbling, he has a great jump shot, all those things, right? But if you're going to have a game, you say, well, who do you think's more likely that you're going to build a team? Who do you think's more likely to, have you win? You're going to take Giannis. He's just bigger and stronger. All those little skills don't matter. And another comparison I thought, too, if you want to go back a few decades or something, would be, say, who would you rather have, Allen Iverson or Tim Duncan, right? I mean, it's debatable, but... And also, I mean, look, you watch Allen Iverson, very exciting, he's going to sell tickets, but if it comes to winning, who would you rather have, Tim Duncan or Allen Iverson, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, they talk about Terrence Crawford and how he's a switch hitter and things like that. And, like, switch hitting means, he can fight either way. He can fight southpaw or orthodox, right? Well, yeah, switch hitting is cool and all, but it's, like, it's only cool when you're against, like, an inferior opponent and you want to show off. And again, I thought about a basketball analogy was like Kobe. Like, Kobe could take shots with his left hand, right? But if you watch a Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I don't think he was taking any shots with his left hand, right? Like, it's more just like, it's like if you can make 10 out of 10 free throws with your right hand and 8 out of 10 with your left, you're not going to ever take with your left unless you want to just, like, show off and hot dog. So, like, yes, I agree, switch hitting is cool, and there are circumstances where you're forced into a switch hitting stance, and yes, it is beneficial to be able to do that. But if Crawford comes into this fight and he thinks he's going to do one round southpaw, one round orthodox, and mix it up and throw off Spence, like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. And I mean, I guess we'll see. And then there's another example was Marvin Hagler fought Sugar Ray Leonard. The first 2 rounds he fought in his opposite stance, and the last 10 rounds he fought in his normal stance. And he lost a close decision. And a lot of people would say, well, if he didn't fight those first 2 rounds in his opposite stance, maybe he would have won the fight. I mean, I thought he should have won the close decision regardless. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, the whole switching thing, the skills thing, it doesn't matter when you come across someone who's just bigger and stronger. It's like, I remember that term I learned, like, when I was in, like, high school or whatever, F equals MA, force equals mass times acceleration, right? So the bigger, stronger, faster, like, I mean, we're going to see in this fight what happens, but I'm very confident Errol Spence is going to win this, and I've been confident in a long time. Let me just see real quick. I know I want to end this thing with my favorite story, but before I get to that, I want to see if there's anything else I'd like to say. There's really nothing else that important to say. I mean, obviously, bet Errol Spence. 1 second. Bet as much as you can on Errol Spence. Make sure it's a 2-way bet if you're betting it and not a 3-way bet. Because if it's a draw, you don't want to lose your money. You want to get your money back. And if you want to make sure you make some money, then you just bet on Errol Spence and you bet on a draw as well. I'll let you know in the title how much I end up betting. Right now, my title is going to say betting $3,000 on Errol Spence. And anytime I put more money, I'll put 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, etc. And just, I keep you guys updated. All right, so last thing was I'd like to say one of my favorite stories was, so I remember it was, I think it was either 2013 or 2014, and I was in Vegas during the summer playing poker. And I had a few friends there with me, and one of my friends was this guy, Adam, and he was really good at poker, but he was also just, like, really smart. Like, he was one of these guys that, like, he could get, like, a 95 average in high school without even trying, right? So he's, like, really smart, and he made $1 million in Omaha at a young age. And he was just one of those guys where it's kind of just like, well, what are you doing playing poker for a living? Like, you can do anything you want. You're one of those people. Like, why? Like, poker's for people that, like, suck at school, right? Like, it's like, if you're someone that can, like, go to Harvard or whatever, go to Harvard. You shouldn't be here playing poker for a living. Like, you could do something else. Like, school was always really hard for me. Like, just filling out, like, a Scantron sheet would, like, drive me crazy, right? So, I eventually, I think once he got to around $1 million in winnings, I think he decided, like, all right, that's enough poker for me. And he ended up going to, I think he went to Brown, right? So an Ivy League school. And then, I haven't heard from him in a while, but I think now he lives in New York and he works for, like, Facebook or something like that, right? So, very smart guy. And this was another guy in Vegas who he was friends with, who I met. He's a nice guy. His name was Chan. And Chan is a great poker player, and he still plays full-time. He's a great tournament player. And he's played tournaments. He's someone actually, literally, he's come, like, top 100 in the main event, like, not even joking, like, 8 times or something. So he's like 8 times. Like, somehow he always just can't get to the final table because he gets unlucky when it matters most. I literally was watching him last year and he got like set to setted. It was like he flopped a set of 9s and got rivered a set of aces and he loses. But anyways, it's just unbelievable that luck. But so anyway, he's a really great player too. And so Chan came. So Chan was I was talking to Chan about poker and hold'em and a tournament and a play I made. Like it was all on bluff and it backfired. But the reason it backfired was because of really dumb ruling and whatever. I don't need to get into those specifics, but he like didn't like the play I made. So then Chan went over to Adam like later that day and they were talking. And Chan went up to Adam and he said, "Man, your friend Sean is so stupid. I can't believe you think he's good at poker. I can't believe this guy even makes money at poker." And Adam looked at him and he said he has good reads. And then Chan said, "I know, but even if he does have good reads, the play he made is so bad, there's no way he could overcome good reads. Just because it's this, it makes no sense. There's no way he's going to last. You should definitely quit poker." And Adam looked at him again and he just said, "He has really good reads." And that's all there is to say about that. And here I am, 10 years later, I've made around $1 million in poker. And yeah, it's been a good time. And I'm excited for this fight. All right, guys. Bet on Errol Spence Jr. Bet as much as you can. If you want to guarantee make some money, also bet on a draw. Have fun. Go make some money. See you guys.